All right. This is our first attempt at podcast that we're going to call Keep, Press, and Play. And the thought behind this podcast is in Keep, Pressing, Play is that every day you got to press that play button over and over, no matter what. Um, I'm Cody Sable, and
I'm Cameron Stable.
we're brothers. And this is something that we've been talking about for some time. And I guess something that I kind of was thinking about starting with, and I looked up this quote just because we've been talking about this since probably dental school or before, honestly.
Yeah, probably.
And
It's the topics have varied here and there, but it's been a hot minute
no
talking
doubt,
about trying to do one of these.
for sure. And so I like Tony Robbins. He's inspirational to me. He helped, like some of his sayings and stuff helped me when I was in dental school and just at a different place and a different mental state in my mind. But um, there's a quote he says. It says, "If you talk about it, it's a dream. If you envision it, it's possible. But if you schedule it, it's real." So me and you've been talking, and it's like, you know what? Let's just do this. I mean, we have enough things that we've talked about and done, and that could talk about that, you know, maybe some people find interesting. So, um,
Right.
I guess we'll just start, with a little introduction. Cam, do you want to lead us off with that?
Sure. So as I already stated, my name's Cameron Sable. I am fixing to turn 30 in 6 days. Um, so got got some years. I'm still young though. Still enjoy doing the things that young folks like to do. One of my first passions, um, fell in love with football. That kind of led into a passion of working out and development of my body and pushing. And I guess that's kind of where the base comes in as far as like hunting and going out west. Already kind of having some of that mental and physical training. Went on through high school, played a little bit of small college ball, um, got married. I am a husband, and although I'm fixing to turn 30, I married my high school sweetheart, and we have 4 kids. Have a soon to be 10-year-old, soon to be 8-year-old, uh, just turned 3. And then I have my son just turned 1 back in February. So I stay busy. I don't get to work out quite as much anymore, but my wife is good about um, encouraging me to hunt and shoot my bow. Archery has definitely fell into another passion as I've gotten out of sports and transitioned from that period of my lifetime into this. And so, um, as far as what I do occupational, I think that plays into what you can do as far as having traveling hunts. I work at Corning Incorporated. Um, it's a larger company. They got good benefits. I'm allowed to have X amount of days, obviously. Um, but that's what I do. Work at Corning. We make fiber optics at our plant. Um, and really, so that's my day-to-day life, doing work and then coming home and being dad. And in my spare time, trying to do something that honestly betters myself, be it, reading the Bible, or trying to stay fit or I just bought some property, so I've been out there working on my property, trying to get things ready for deer season, that sort of thing. So in my spare time, that's what I like to do.
Good deal.
All right, you want to go ahead and
Yeah.
tell them
I
a little
can
bit about yourself?
say a little bit about myself. Cody Sable, as said before, um, first and foremost, uh, I'm just a sinner saved by grace. And if you don't like to hear that, then you're probably not going to enjoy this podcast because we're gonna
Amen.
we're gonna talk about variety of things, and whether that is, our faith or, um, you know, working out, fitness. For me, I eat, sleep, drink, archery, elk hunting,
There you
archery, deer
go.
hunting. That's what I'm about.
Right.
And that's why I like to emulate others that care about that. And I mean, it's not my quote unquote little G God, but I'll tell you what, man, it's an important part of me and who I am. It's what I work out to do. But ultimately, it's just about me trying to be the best version of myself on a daily basis. And I'm definitely not my A game every single day, but I'm going to give it my all. And whether that's from, putting reps in behind the string every day on the bow to my work as a dentist, that's what I do for a living. Um, I went to dental school and I graduated from the prestigious UNC School of Dentistry. And even though I'm a Wolfpack fan, NC State all the way, I am
Go
proud
back.
to have graduated from um, what I say is the top tier school uh, as far as dentistry goes, and get to learn from those that honestly I'm just blessed to have got learned from those that started dentistry and conservative operative dentistry, wrote the book. So just blessed. Um, no kids from me, but I'm still blessed, and I have lots of nieces and nephews that love to call me Coco. So
They
um,
love their Uncle Coco, that is for sure.
that's
Uncle Coco and Aunt Katie, right?
that's right. And Katie, my fiance, she's a wonderful woman, and I'm very appreciative for her and the support that she gives me to allow me to follow my passions and follow my dreams. And this is just another singular avenue for me to do that. Whether that's days, weeks in the backcountry. Sometimes they're solo. Sometimes they're with my brother, which we'll get into some of this here shortly, and through a number of podcasts. We're not going to cover everything in a single episode,
Right. Yeah.
but it just gives us at least an opportunity to kind of introduce ourselves and who we are and what we're about. And so we're about just being the best versions of ourselves. You know, it's what's driven us in sports and athletics. And I think about, you know, for me, archery is really like an avenue for me to go from being a uh, multi-sport athlete to basically it's you against you, and that's
Right.
the
Yeah.
fight. And so for me, archery is something that I can apply to all aspects of my life. And I just think about, I mean, even now I fight those voices in my head when I'm tired or whatever and I'm shooting and it's like send it now, send it now, send it now. And it's just about calming yourself and just being in control in a very high stressful situation. And I can tell you what, when we just kind of I guess we'll just kind of push this into hunting too, but being close to an animal like that in an archery situation, and that animal is made to survive, and your heart is pumping, everything in you is like wanting to dump, and you are just like wanting to react. And that's about honing those emotions in, controlling yourself in a stressful situation. And that's what I love about archery. I tell people it's free therapy, baby. Like, eh,
That
you
is very
you get
true.
you get
One of
behind.
one one of my favorite shirts. It's a Mountain Op shirt. Um, as you can tell, he's wearing Mountain Ops. I love Mountain Ops. It's an awesome product. Not
Really,
sponsored by him. Maybe get there someday, but um, I own a lot of Mountain Ops stuffs, and one of my favorite shirts. They have like a block foam target, and it's a group therapy. And man, how true is it? Um, Shooting archery is just it takes you into another, almost like another dimension. It just relaxes you. I mean, you have to relax in order to shoot it. I mean, you can't really be tense, or else you're going to be punching that trigger and not really. I mean, some people can punch, but it's not really a controlled shot. So, anyways, that might be getting into a little more
no, it's all
than
good. I
what we
mean,
wanted to breach into. But
we'll just let the conversation flow as it needs to. I mean, there's when you're talking about punching the trigger and making great shots, there's plenty of people that do it. And the argument is when you look at people like Joel Turner and Dan Staten and these people that are about like doing your process or whatever that process is in your head, um, and whatever it is that works for you, you got to find what works for you. But that whole process of everything, I'm kind of lost myself in my train of thought of actually kind of where I was going with this whole point here. So you got to forgive me for that. But um, anyway, Cam, uh, let's just jump into this, man. Oh, I remember what I was going to say, but it is what it is. We're going to jump into this.
Oh, okay.
Tell us about your bow, man. Tell us about what is new with you and what is big and what you're looking forward to.
Yeah, so started out with really just a budget bow. Um I didn't really having four kids, didn't really have the money to go out and drop on a name brand bow at the time. So I bought a budget bear bow, and over the years I built that thing and it would shoot just as good as any name brand bow that you got. So I shot that for several years. It was a newer budget bow. I think it was like a 2019 or something of that nature.
2019.
And it did me really well. But I uh, wanted to get my wife into the realm of archery, and um, so I was able to convince her to take over my old bow. Would drop the poundage, and she would take it over, and that I would get a new bow, be it consignment, a newer consignment, something of that nature. And I went to the best bow shop around, Boneyard Archery,
Shout out Jonathan.
and
Go check there is.
shout out Boneyard, Jonathan. You're the man. Um, but unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, he talked me into buying Matthew's new lift bow. So he had several coming in. I'm still waiting to get it in my hands to get it all tuned up to me. But I shot one, demoed one at his shop, and it took one shot, and I was drinking all the Kool-Aid. That's a very impressive bow. Shout out to Matthews engineers and what they're doing. They're really just it's so clean. But I have a Spectre print, a First Light Spectre print with black limbs. Got it in the 33 version. Um, should be here any day now. So excited to get up to Boneyard and get that thing tuned in. Um, get all the bells and whistles put on it. So looking forward to that. Ready to get that because, like I said, my wife took over my last bow. So I'm kind of dead in the water until that gets here. Haven't been able to get any string time. I'm getting antsy. I'm sure Jonathan, if you spoke to Jonathan, he would attest to me texting him several times to see what the new update is. But he assures me that it should be here within the next couple of weeks. So excited about that. Definitely. Matthew's lift bow. It's going
Yeah,
to be an elk slayer.
for
Well,
sure.
and
For sure.
whitetail,
Right.
but
What kind of arrow? I'll ask you a few questions. You know, previously you shot carnivores and I fletched them out for you with the AAE Max um, off of the bits jig. What are you think you're gonna try to use the same arrow? It's a good arrow. It flies good, but are you looking from going from a standard size shaft to maybe mid size like a RIP TKO, or are you gonna drop down to the
I,
4 mil? Like where's your thoughts at?
I'll be honest with you. I'm toying with maybe changing the arrow setup. Um, but I mean, I've got several arrows of the carnivore, and they fly good.
I
They
do.
flew really good out of my last bow.
Yeah.
And so I kind of want to see how they fly out of the lift, just kind of see if it's still compatible. I mean, it sounds crazy, but certain arrows fly better out of different bows. You know that, but so just kind of want to see how it flies out of the bow.
Yeah.
Um, and then from there, um, I've toyed with going down to some of the micro diameter arrows, be it 5 mil or 4 mil. Um, and you know, like I said, Jonathan has assured me that if I did that, that it would be just as good as the carnivores. So I don't know. I'm gonna see how I'm gonna see how the carnivores fly. I like Black Eagle arrows, I do. Um,
They're good.
but we're gonna see how those fly and then kind of take it from there.
No doubt. And well, and two, ultimately it's about the build of the arrow too, getting good square, just replicating things. And I'm gonna have to pat myself on the back and building you some good carnivore arrows there. But I ran carnivores myself. I really like Black Eagle, and my charger, my backup bow, which is an older bow, like a 2013, or I think it's 2013 bow. um but uh, it eats those arrows. And honestly, like, basically, I took that arrow and made some modifications for my rig, and then just replicated things out. And so even my current bow, which is the Hoyt Ventum 33, which was the honestly the biggest change in my opinion, was the biggest change in any bow up until the lift this year. And so
Yeah, yeah.
I'm a big Hoyt guy. I like Hoyt, and it's not because I love Cam Haynes or anybody else, but I just, man, I like the way it sits in my hand. It's dead in my hand. I never got to worry about it. Like, it's good quality. But I mean, I'm not gonna lie. If I was gonna buy a bow this year, I would have interest in the lift. I shot it at the range just to test it on the 70 pound mods, and it's a different draw cycle, but it's clean, man. It's
It
impressive.
comes off so clean, and it just sends them. The speeds that you could get off of the lift. Well, like you said, I mean, I agree with you. I think the Venom was top notch, best thing on the market prior to lift coming out. Um, the RX-7s, they were good. Um,
But not a
but
lot really changed from 20. They had made some modifications, like, for your rest string, and like the stand was this last year ones off of the HBX cams. I mean, they did
yeah,
some minor things, but nothing that was just like major from what
mind blowing.
they made that 2020 bow. And I
Right.
mean, it's just a good bow. And right now I'm shooting it lights out, and I have been. So it's like, I'm talking to Jonathan. It's like, why change? Why drop the money? Why change everything up right now? If anybody's listening to this and they want to donate a lift in my name for Matthew's Archery, my first bow was my first bow was like an Omega Explorer, but well, if you want to talk about my first bow, it was like really old school, like kitty bow. But my first bow that I hunted with was a Mega Explorer youth bow, and then I went to a Matthew Solo Cam, and like old vertical bow, and that thing still pulls hard, son. And
There's
it,
no let off on that joker.
no, man, it definitely, you got to be a man to pull that thing back, and it just makes me kind of think about where you got like Ashby and like some of these guys. Like, think about early archery where these guys were pulling 80, 90 pounds, and it was like they were pulling that stuff, man. And when you're in the
Yeah.
600 grain arrow
And
range,
holding. That's
yeah,
the
I
that's
mean,
the biggest thing, holding.
that's
I mean,
man,
yeah, it had some let off, but it was nothing like today's technology.
that's man stuff right there. But yeah, I mean, my bow, which at, I think Jonathan said at the range, it's at 81, 82 pounds. My scale says 83.1 9, 8, or whatever it says. Either way, like I'm still pulling a poundage bow, and people will be like, "Well, why are you gonna pull such a heavy bow?" And it's like, well, why not? I'm able right now, and
Right. Yeah.
maybe as I approach 40, because here I am I'll be 34 this year. I'm 33 currently. Maybe as I approach 40, 50, I decide, hey, I'm gonna drop back down. Um, but right now for me, pulling that weight, 80 plus pounds, I'm shooting, well, my arrow last year, rip TKO, uh with four fletch. I like four fletch. You can argue all you want. But I think four fletch steers a fixed broadhead better personally. And that's just my personal preference. I like it. I do 2-degree offset with a helical on the bits, and it's just money. I have shot iron wheel broadheads, single bevel out to 80 yards, and hit a literal dime, a sticker that I picked off the ground and just stuck to the target. I mean, like they fly like my field points. Um, but anyway, the Rip TKO four fletch, 505 grains is actually what it came out to be in my new batch last year. My original build was 507. But I'm playing around with shooting the air razors instead this year, just because I really like those. I lose 5 grains off my arrow, which puts me at 500 flat. Uh, and that puts me at 290 feet per second. And so, yeah, having to pull a little more poundage. I mean, depends on what mods you put on, whether it's 75-pound mods or 80. I'll be interested to see what the 80-pound mods on that Matthews pulls like. Um, I'm not saying it's gonna pull bad, but for me, being used to a Hoyt cycle, even when I pulled the 70-pound uh, lift, I was like, that feels like 70 pounds. When I'm pulling my Hoyt, it doesn't feel like 82, 3 pounds.
Yeah. I
Like
mean,
it's
when
your
you first got it and I shot it, it didn't feel like it definitely didn't feel like 80 some odd. I mean, it's stout. Don't get me wrong, but it didn't feel like
yeah. Shoot it a
didn't
hundred
feel
times in a row, and then your shoulders really feeling it. But it's
right.
all that muscle memory, man. But um, gas bowstrings, which I don't know if you're gonna run stock. I, I mean, from what I can hear, the new Matthew stock strings are great. I don't see any reason why you can't run stock. I ran stock strings off of my Hoyt when I first got it. I had some stretch. Um, I got the Cam Haynes edition, of course, man. I got to shout out Cam Haynes, man. He's the man. I don't care what you say. I don't care if you don't like him. I don't care if you don't think you need to run a marathon to kill elk. The fact of the matter is he makes stuff happen. He makes stuff happen, and I guess this will kind of segue into something I guess we could talk about here. Is it's like being in shape to go out west. Like, let's just kind of jump into that for a second, because yeah, there's plenty of people, and no, I have not killed an elk yet. You know what? Had plenty of opportunities to make that happen, messed them up in every single way, and that's hunting, man. That's bow hunting. You're gonna make all the mistakes. I've made them all whitetail hunting, so I've made many more mistakes. But then you go out and you get out on the mountain, and you spend a couple nights at 10,000 foot elevation, coming from, let's see, my watch says it's 761 here where I'm at, which is, I'm a little higher than you. But
Yeah, I'm 564 right now.
yeah, so we go from basically 0 to 10, and we have 1 day of acclimation. Which, I mean, we come in. I mean, like, I'll be honest, I come in and I feel like Superman, and I've been putting in the time in the summer. I mean, I'm push mowing the grass with 90 pounds in my pack on my back, and people driving by probably thinking, "What is this lunatic doing?" But it's just like, back to the eat, sleep, drink it. I want to be the best that I could be, and it kind of takes me back to the first trip that I went and got slapped in the mouth a little bit, and it's kind of like a wake up call. Like, I never want to be that dehydrated again. I never want to be uh, and I wasn't in bad shape then, but
Right. Yeah.
you come in there and you're able to do everything, and then 3 days in, I mean, anybody can get through 3-4 days, but when that grind kicks in, and you're having to wake up in the morning, it's rough, and you're not even getting back to camp till way dark,
Yeah.
and then you make some meals after you've, done whatever that you're gonna do, and then you're making meals, and then it's to sleep, to wake up again the next morning, and it's cold, and you don't want to go out there, and you're like, man, this sleeping bag is really good, and I'm really tired, and then those little, I guess you can call them demons, start chirping in your ear, and you're like, just lay there, man, you're good, you know, you can catch them when they're bedded. You don't gotta be up at first light, da 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 da. But it's it's a different ball game. I think about that meme where it's like, whitetail hunters or back east hunters, where it's like, oh, it was good, and your face is all bruised up and everything, and it was fun.
Yeah.
It is fun. It's very
Yeah.
fun, but it is a delayed gratification.
Mountains mountains will break you, that's for sure.
Will break
That
you
is for sure.
100%. And but being broken make drove, and that's just how I click. It's just me. Failure makes me want to be better. Like, I'm all right with being wrong, which is different than what I used to be. I'm okay with being wrong, and I'm okay with messing up, and I'm okay with getting kicked in the mouth. But I'm coming back with a vengeance. Like, I'm gonna be
Right.
better, and that's what I love about elk hunting. And dude, I can't I said I wasn't gonna go this year, and look at me, like, talking about it, thinking about it, probably going, most likely. And so this is a
And
newsflash. You know,
I'm jelly. I'm jelly.
well, we'll see. I don't know
Can't
how.
I don't know, you can't do it that much when you got four little jokers depending on your income for their food. So I can't do it quite as often, but I've been fortunate enough to go uh, several times. I mean, like you said, the experiences are beyond out of this world. And unfortunately, I've not killed an elk either. Have had the best, perfect opportunity possible, and it just didn't pan out. Maybe we can hop into that another time. Um, but yeah, I don't. It's just elk hunting in general. And don't get me wrong, I love whitetail hunting. But you go out west and you spend it in the back country, you're camping, you're hiking, you're looking for these elk, looking for sign, that sort of thing. It's more of a spot and stalk type scenario versus your whitetail in general. Usually you're in a blind or a stand and you're just waiting. Still exciting when they come out and you send that arrow. However, um, I don't know. It's just it's addicting. So I'm pretty jealous. I'm pretty jealous of you. I wish I could go. If you down one, me and the wife are gonna fly out. We're gonna have somebody watch the kids, and we're gonna come help you pack it out. But
Good, because my old self is gonna need it. Um,
yeah,
but
I might regret it once it comes down to it, as old as my body feels. But
dude,
we're gonna try to anyhow.
yeah, I mean, that's all we can do, and um, got a lot of work to do between now and September, but those days are coming fast. I don't know. Maybe it's Dan. I don't know who says it, but there's only it. No, it's probably Cam. It could be both. But there's only so many Septembers in a man's life, and you know that rang more true to me this year than anything. And right now, at this point in my life, I don't have kids. I got pups. I'm a dog dad. That's all I got. And I got nieces and nephews. But um, I'm at a point where it's like, do it while I can. Because we're not
Right.
promised.
Yeah.
We're not promised anything. And at the prime of my life, what, I'll fall out of a tree stand, break my back, and that's just you know what it is. And that's why I'm like, this could be so much sweeter. The same way when I killed that deer this year, that was so much sweeter, and that was a that made me happier than anything that I got to still shoot that deer with my bow. Um, Even though I should have killed him in October, it is what it is. But yeah,
That
man,
was a nice deer.
I'm excited. I'm ready for season. Been doing deer chores, um, getting out some minerals. They're in early growth here. I can't even really tell you who's going to be the guy this year, and hopefully I got a good shooter. Uh, there's people say, "Oh, you can't eat the antlers." That's sure, I get that. And I enjoy eating deer. I don't do it just for the trophy side of things.
Right.
But
Oh,
what I
sure.
do want to do is shoot either an bigger and or more mature deer than I shot the year before. Why I want to shoot a young one? I mean, that's great. If it makes you excited, this is what like my buddy Graham and Daryl and other people who have been good influences for me. It's like if it excites you, do it. Take that
Send it.
shot.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, any time a deer is gonna be on, there's gonna be an excitement. But if it makes you excited, uh, and it's got you going, and you want that deer, fine, then take it. But the key to shooting older, more mature animals, at least for whitetail, and I think that's elk too, but some of that too, that's a big gamble. But if any anytime anytime you pass on an animal, you're gambling. But my personal philosophy is always bet on that animal because I can guarantee you they're smarter than the average hunter. And I don't mean that in any bad way to say it that way, but most people aren't taking thermals into consideration. Most people aren't taking the wind in consideration. They're like, "There's a big deer here, and they're on my corn pile, and I'm going to sit this stand because they're there." And
Yeah.
there's a reason why they get old and big, and it's not because they're stupid. And that's what makes the chase even more fun for me and more of a challenge. And don't think
More
there's not times
appealing.
where, yeah, don't think there's not times where I'm like, well, there goes my buck. I'm after at 80 yards, and yeah, I can shoot out past 100. But for a whitetail, come on now. I like to keep it.
Nah.
I mean, 30 yards is a long shot realistically on a whitetail, man. They're like Neo from the Matrix. Those
Yeah.
animals
The
move, man.
string jump is crazy for a whitetail. They're so agile. I mean, it's just it, I would not advise anything past 40 yards, and that's really pushing it. Like you said,
Yeah,
30 yards is right. I really anything past 30, you're getting iffy on that string jump.
they got to be real calm at I mean, real calm at 40. But I mean, like, you know, sometimes you think they're chill, their heads down, but see, for me, ultimately, like it comes down to be is that an ethical shot, and that's where a lot of people fail to have, I don't know, some kind of connect in their mind, which don't even get me started. I'm not going to sit here and bash anybody on what the type of weapon that they want to use. But
Right.
but
Yeah.
it is about being ethical in that shot, and that animal should have a very quick and swift death. Um, Else, I mean, why do you do it? And that's there's a lot of deer. They live. I got a lot of rent free memories of should have happens in my mind, and a lot of times it's just that what that shot wasn't right. The angle wasn't right. The situation wasn't right. uh and sometimes it's better just to not, because there's nothing worse than shooting an animal, and nobody wants to talk about that, but there's nothing worse than shooting an animal and not being able to recover that animal.
Mm.
Hopefully you hope that they live, and man, I mean, I think it was like 2019, dude. I shot a doe quarter away, and I just knew for sure she was dead. She lived, and she's still alive, I do believe. And I mean, but it's just they're tough animals, man, and you got to be realistic in your placement, and then that gets into a whole other thing: broadhead selection, FOC of your arrow, and the whole heavy versus light. I love about a 500 grain arrow because that arrow's gonna eat, and I've proved it to be so, especially out of my rig. So everybody has different things. I'm gonna go with the ranch fairy on this. I don't want to shoot a flapper, but I don't want to be slinging the rock either. I'm not shooting a rhino, and I got plenty of kinetic energy. It's all about what's on the end of that sharp stick, and is the weight in the front of that arrow, is it gonna go through or is it gonna slap that animal? Ping pong ball versus golf ball. What do you want me to throw at you? Tell me what's gonna inflict more
Right.
damage.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
just what it comes down to. So, um, but Cam, we may have to take a quick intermission here as it's coming down to uh, we're limited here on uh, this platform to in our recording time. So
Yeah.
if we want to continue, we may have to just pause it and then reconnect this in a second audio. But
Okay.
I want to give you a heads up. We got just a couple minutes left. So
Yeah. I was gonna tell you when I looked at it, we had 3. So I mean, I'm fine with continuing. I probably can't stay up too much longer. Got work in the morning, but I'm
Friday
good.
off, baby. I'm good. We can stay up all night. I'm golden.
Yeah, you're off tomorrow. That's my Friday to work. I'm off the next Friday.
We got to get our Fridays in line, man. But tell you what, let's take an intermission and then we'll hit it back again for a few minutes, do some final thoughts, and then that'll wrap up our first attempt at
Podcast
Keep Press and
episode
Play
1.
podcast, episode 1, people. Let's go. All right.
All right.
All right. Keep Press and Play podcast. We're new to this, so we had a limit as to how much that we could record in one sitting, and then so we're gonna just kind of segue into what we were already talking about. So, um, Cam, what do you think you're gonna probably like to put on the end of that sharp stick?
uh, I don't know. So last year, well, I guess let me go back to say when I first started bow hunting, I was about like mechanical, rage, um, those kind of mechanical
Yeah, got the chisel tip rage.
broads. Yeah, yeah. Um, and then fixed blades started becoming really popular, and I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know. And then took the first trip out west, and that's when I just committed to the fixed blade. Ran the Hurricanes from I believe it's Ozcut,
Oscar,
maybe.
yeah,
Um, and honestly, they flew really true.
I do.
I mean, it was a good fixed broadhead. I felt like, um, but I did notice, and I took care of them. I noticed that maybe the metal it was made out of wasn't as strong. Um, Took a shot on a buck, and it went through, but I guess was a complete pass through. Basically, he ended up breaking off one of the fins on my fixed blade, on those hurricanes. And so I believe I told you that, and that was when the iron wheels were like coming on the scene hot. And honestly, I couldn't justify paying what it was for 3, but you're the man, and you gifted it to me maybe for Christmas or something of that nature. Um, so I used those, and yeah, talking about flying true, they were really good. But I was kind of torn between the Iron Wheels and the Grim Reapers for our trip out west this past year. Um, Both flew really good. I actually ended up running both, had X amount in my quiver of the Reaper, and then X amount of the iron wheels. And so if if the arrow flies, especially the Black Eagle, if the Black Eagle flies like good out of my lift, I'm pretty much thinking that I'm gonna probably stick with um, the Reaper or Iron Will. There's a couple other ones that I have in my broad selection. I think it was micro, um, the micro hybrids. I have a couple of those
Grim Reaper, yeah.
that that's the Grim Reaper. Okay. Um, I have another like hybrid fixed mechanical, and I can't, maybe Carnage. Is that a fix? Is that?
Is it the 3-blade one? That's Fatal Steel.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Pro Series Fatal Steel, or Fatal Steel might not be Pro Series. I might don't fact check me, people. But
I was
Fatal,
gonna say that they're all really so similar. They're trying to, I mean, that's all business is. Somebody comes up with something, and then you try to make a copycat that's just as good, if not better. So, um, no, but honestly, I really like the iron wheels. It, like you said before we went out west, my bow didn't quite shoot as far as you, but was sending them from 60 kill zone. I mean, dead on. So,
yeah,
with the wheels and the Reaper. So I'm kind of thinking that I'm gonna do an assortment like I did this past year. Have a couple Graham, couple wheels, and because I mean they both fly true, so I'm not too worried about it. I guess if I were to go out west, I would say for sure iron wheels, hands down, no questions.
yeah,
But whitetail, I guess it'd be just kind of what I'm feeling that day because they both fly really good. So
yeah. Well, for me, I've tested many different broadheads through the years, and used to be a rage fanatic, and rages are great. And then I like G5 for the ease of sharpening them. When I switched to fix G5 Montec, great blade, flies great out the distance. It's awesome. I wasn't the archer that I am now then, but I lost a doe. Well, she lived, thankfully. She was quartered more than I thought, and I put it more forward than I thought. So I went probably one lung and out brisket, just the way my angle was, and she bled for 60 yards and dried up and continued to live and have um offspring, fawns. But um I've killed deer with iron will. Last year I shot the hybrid, the micro hybrid Grim Reaper Pro Series, the
right,
one and a
yeah,
half cut, dude, left a figure eight, clean pass through, um, on the deer that I killed. He went what 70 yards. He was dead within seconds. I mean, you there's no closing that hole up. My only problem with the iron wheel on deer, so sharp, man. I like the single bevel. And the deer that's sitting here on the wall right now. I shot with a double bevel iron wheel, 100 grain back off of my charger, and I went and buried that into his other shoulder, and it punctured all the way through him, and he went about 100. He was trying to get back to his bed, but he died then. But the thing about the iron will is that sometimes you just don't get blood. That's my only problem with iron will on whitetail. And so for me, that's why I've been testing uh the wides, because I'm very interested in getting more cutting diameter. I like single bevel. I like how it drills through. Um, and so I'm playing around with the 150 and just cutting 25 grains off of my insert. I run a 100 grain insert, so taking that down to 75, and then a 1 instead of a 125 head, just putting that extra 25 grains into the broad, and then just having a bigger, wider broadhead. I don't really love the vented. I shot it from 80 and it whistled just. I heard it all the
Mm,
way there, and now
yeah.
it flew great. And in the scheme of things, is an animal really going to react? Whitetail, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
they
I
already
was gonna
react. They
say,
already react. Calm elk, maybe not. Maybe not. Uh,
but I mean, I don't know. I mean, if they hear it coming, it depends on how quick they hear it coming. They're large animals, but they still can duck and dip and roll out.
the difference on an elk and a deer is you have an 18-inch target. You got about a 5-inch target, I guess, if you want to be conservatively say you got a large target on a deer. I think you got like 2 inches to play with. That's the way I think about it. Because back to the Patriot aim small, miss small. You pick a spot and you put it there. And back to what we were talking about even earlier in the podcast, you can train all you want, but it's about in that moment. And that's why it matters when you're putting in reps. Now, you're not just slinging arrows, you're
Right.
perfecting your process. You're perfecting calming yourself. When your brain's sitting there saying, shoot, 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 I usually take another couple seconds, because it's training me to just pause it. But anyway, let me not get off on a side tangent here. Let me finish my broadhead thought, and then we can continue. But so very impressed with um, the micro hybrid for deer. Um, you know, teach their own on elk. I mean, you got people like Levi that's shooting with mechanical. The mechanical that is the most interesting to me right now is Bomar's um, bone evading
Oh yeah.
mechanical. I definitely during urban archery here in North Carolina, I quivered that baby every time I was ready to smack a doe. But it's like them does just knew I was after them, and it was tough. It was they just I didn't get a chance, but I have reserves with a two blade just in general. But the fact of the matter is there's proof in the pudding, and although Josh Bomar is an excellent archer, him and Sarah Bomar are going to Africa and putting those arrows through some of the biggest animals on the planet, and it not
Yeah.
been a problem at all. Like when I saw that, I was like, order, take my money. Like I want to try this on a deer. If it'll kill, gazelle or crocs or God, what else have they killed? Like so many different large animals. Like, come on, man. Like there's gotta be something to that. But that's why for me, there's things that I love about the Grim Reaper micro hybrid. There's things I don't love. Structural integrity, like, you know, and I sent Troy Fowler a message and was like, what do you think about this? Like, you're getting the best of both. I'm getting the cut on contact. So either way, you're getting a hole. It's gonna, and even if one of the blades don't deploy, well, you just got like a real big, 3/4 of an inch extra blade that just sliced them open,
Right.
and so you
Yeah.
get the best of both. But his point was, yeah, but did the spring mess up when you shot it straight through the deer and it went into the ground, or was it because it hit a rib? And I mean, when you think about it, you got this much, you're gonna hit a rib. And so that's the other thing about this technology, this bone evading technology. I was like, there's no way if it's gonna evade bone, it can't cut through this animal. But dude, these holes are massive, and it's impressive. So that's on the list for me for deer. I mean, the thing is then it limits your shots. And I'm not saying you should take bad shots. The reason I didn't shoot that deer this year in October is because I personally just wasn't willing to put a frontal shot on that buck just because they're so shifty. They're gonna move. And no matter how good I am as an archer, at 17 yards, what if he whirled and then I just hit one lung and then, you know, ripped up his side of his ribs and he runs a mile and a half and I never find this deer, like it's not worth it for me. Um,
Right. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, people can say whatever they're gonna say. I've always envisioned that the first elk that I kill, it's probably gonna be frontal or slightly quarter two. And I'm all right with that because guess what? I'm when I'm shooting an elk, it's an iron will. I can almost guarantee you without a doubt, if I was gonna put anything, it would be that micro hybrid. But you got the what is it's a strong aluminum. I mean, it's like it can be what? Can it be hardened? I believe I talked to dad about it and he was like, yeah, that aluminum can be hardened. And so it's a great, I mean, it is a great broadhead, but when it comes down to it, you got A2 steel, made in America, super sharp, retaining your edge. I like single bevel. Um, you just cannot beat Iron Will. Uh, I think it's top tier, best broadhead for penetration and just for creating a wound channel like no other. Um, and when you're talking about a bigger animal like elk, I mean, creating two holes, matters. But then you got the outfitters and people that are saying, even to Jonathan, you know, as a instead of a calling a plan B arrow one that, well, in case you move and you hit a shoulder blade, um, it's gonna puncture through. They're calling a plan B arrow like, well, if you get a marginal shot and you have mechanical, you got this much cutting diameter versus this much cutting diameter. So if you hit a marginal shot, even if you hit guts, God forbid, that animal's bleeding out and they're still gonna die fairly quick.
Right.
So I can understand the argument between two. And so my best would be take both of those things and combine them into one, but that's a whole nother thing. But that's not
Yeah.
out there. That doesn't exist, and I don't even know that it could exist. But at the end of the day, you're gonna lose something one for the other. You're gonna lose penetration, or you're gonna lose cutting diameter. And so, like you, I hunt with a mixed quiver, and if your bow, and people can argue that, like broadhead tune, when you have a bow that's tuned the way that Jonathan tunes my bow, and then I put time under the string and say, hey, you know what? At whatever it's hitting this, or I'm hitting 1 inch low left at 85 yards or whatever. You know, oh,
Hmm.
let me take that. Let me put a shim here. Let me do this. All right, now your money. And I'm not saying I'm Levi or anything, but I shoot consistently enough to know that, like, for me, iron will, even the wides fly good out to 80 yards, and most of your stuff, even elk hunting, it's gonna be under that. So, you know, that's why
Right.
I'm kind of leaning on the wides this year. Uh, they just Iron Will just released the new 125 wide, but it's vented. It's smaller
Yeah.
vents. It's smaller vents than the 125 double bevel wide, but baby's still gonna whistle. I mean, ain't no doubt.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. So for me, your standard 125 uh is money for distance. Uh Mechanical is gonna be money for a good follow-up shot. Um and the the wides, man, I would definitely be willing to put a 150 wide through the deer. I don't know if you've seen that in comparison, but they're wide. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
yeah, and they're gonna eat. I mean, they're gonna leave a hole like no other. And so, but it's hard for me to just back to me with the hybrid. It was a figure eight, man. Entrance and exit, and I like the mechanics behind the Grim Reapers. A lot of people are into what's the I'm drawing a blank. What's the titanium one everybody likes? Sever. I like titanium. That's great. It's strong. But two blade, two blade. So I mean, like for me, it's like right now the only two blade that I would want to shoot would be the Beast. I mean, just because I've seen what it's done to the biggest animals, some of the biggest
Yeah.
animals in the world.
The
And
iron wheel is A2 tool steel, and it comes in at 60 on the Rockwell hardness scale, which is
hard.
impressive. I think the review is like
60, is it 60,
tempered.
62 Rockwell or 60? It don't matter.
Uh,
It's
it's
hard. It don't
I,
matter.
I think it's 60, but uh, yeah, Rockwell scale rating of 60. Um, but I mean that's impressive. And then um, how true it flies. You have that, and that was the thing that I really liked about him, especially after experiencing uh
Tolerance
the
is
the fin breaking on that hurricane from the Oscuts. Kind of turned me on to that A2 steel. It's You're really not gonna break that. And I mean, they have product warranty where I believe their warranty is if it breaks in the field, not when you're target practicing and such, but if it breaks in the field, they'll replace it.
yeah.
Um, so that's another good thing that, God forbid you try to blow through a shoulder, you miss and you blow through a shoulder, or you pass through when it goes in, hits a rock or a log, and you chip a fin. As long as it's in the field, they will replace that broadhead. So, I mean, that's the other thing I like about it. The fact that it's so hard also it helps with the fact of keeping it sharp
Blade
or
work.
sharpening. And you're talking about on the deer. It's almost like, like when you get a deep cut or whatever, it doesn't quite bleed
You're like, oh,
like a
am I cut? And then it's like a 5-second delay, and there's the blood. There it is. Yeah, I'm cut.
yeah, yeah. I feel like that's the way iron wheels are, but
Because I'm
I
sharp.
mean, it's a heck of a broad for sure. I mean, as far as a fixed blade, I like you said, going out west, that would really be the only thing that I would use. And I mean, you could play with whatever configurations they have out, or whatever, vented, the 150s versus, the smaller. I still think regardless, which I'm curious, I do the vented come in at 60 on the Rockwell scale too, or are those different spec?
Pretty sure.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that's all the same. The only difference is so like basically the way iron wheel works is they have a specific grainage in the ferrule that holds the blade. Um and then and then that's a particular weight, and then that's within like, this is for the 125 and the 150, and then this is for the 175 and the 200, and
Right.
so they get more grainage in that, and then the blades are within a certain reason. So like for example, I, I'm not gonna get quoted on this, but I believe if I took my 125 broad and then bought a 150 wide replacement blade and put it on that broadhead body, screwed it on, it would just be a 150 blade because it has the same body, the ferrule of the.
Yeah.
And am I saying that? I believe it's called the ferrule, the part that holds the blade. If not, then I'm live sounding like an idiot, acting like, um,
uh,
but I do believe that's what it is, uh, termed as. But either way, I'm not gonna get lost in the weeds. But it, Iron Will's great, and like you said, I've practiced shooting them, and sometimes when I shoot into the red uh, morel target, like I don't think there's a better target, honestly, other than the 1/3 elk. That's my best thing to shoot. I love that thing.
Need to get a full size.
Yeah, for
Those are only like
what are they, like $1,600 now? Who knows?
gonna
12,
say
I'd say at least
what,
1,200.
like a couple grand for a full size.
Yeah, and when I bought my 1/3 elk, it was like super cheap. Now I don't even think you can get one for less than like 300 and something. I did replace the
Was it-
core last year, but I don't.
Yeah, I
I do
think they
not shoot
have
the broad with my
the
elk
one
anymore.
third elk. Maybe I think I saw it on Amazon for maybe like 360 or something of that nature. It's three something. Um,
Reinhardt makes
unless
nasty target, man. It's good.
yeah,
But yeah, no. Back to the like pulling them out of the target. I so a lot of times I would shoot and just like, well, I'm just gonna leave those arrows in there. I'll pull them tomorrow. Then I'd forget. I think they're all field points, which I'm a big fan of Iron Wheel. It's expensive, but sometimes you get what you pay for. Like, and
yeah, that is true.
why am I gonna shoot a top end bow and shoot no offense, but like dollar store broads, that would be so stupid to me. Or like order broads off Temu or whatever. It's like, no, I'm good. Like, cause that's gonna
Yeah,
make things fly funny. And when your tolerances are low and you got good quality product, that's on the front of your arrow. That's the business end. That's what's gonna do the damage. And so why would you want to shoot something that's I mean, if that's all you can afford, that's great. I'm not saying that you can't. I've killed deer with lesser broadheads. Dude, the rage was the thing, man. Like, but I know plenty of rage horror stories and some of that, and I could, you could chalk it up. I got friends that's like, man, I put it right, and whether it was a marginal shot or not, like, fact of the matter is, you're relying on a mechanical push to flap open. You're losing kinetic energy on entry. Um, I don't know, but pulling those out of target and accidentally slicing my finger open as a dentist, bad thing, man.
yeah,
My boss and people at work is like, "You cut your hand again?" And I'm like over here, like super glued my hand together over here, and with the liquid band-aid, just like with Tegaderm and stuff on it. Like, all right, I gotta be careful. I can't because the back of that blade sharp too. That's what gets me when you
yeah,
put your hand right there and you pull it out and you're not careful. You just there you go, there it is, and
right, yeah.
you're looking at your tendon, and that's fun. So, but
That's that's another story. We can't
that's
get into
another
that one
story.
yet.
That's another story for another day. I mean,
Yeah,
I've rambled enough. I know I have, and I mean, I hope that for podcast number one, I hope this has been informative, entertaining. This is kind of more of just an introduction of us, who we are. Uh, Look, I'm a nerd. I'm a big old country nerd. That's what it comes down to be. I love to read studies. You don't tell me that I can't find something. I will. Do your own research, people. Do your own testing. That's what it's about, and it's about whether that's your diet, whether that's your bow setup, your arrow setup. Like just because so and so says it's so, is it so though? Just because we don't have a double blind placebo study on the matter, it can't be true. Well, test it out, see how it works for you. What works for you might not work for me in the most favorable way. And I will say this, let me back up while I'm kind of on that same topic. Back to the hurricane, great broadhead. I shot that. I forgot that I even shot that one for a while. I never killed an animal with it, but I wanted to because it bores a hole, man. Like it's nice, a three-bladed single bevel broadhead. So I mean it's cool, but you probably know more than this. Dak could definitely probably speak more to this, but was it injection molded basically, or like powder form in a press, and then it's just a softer steel. It doesn't
yeah,
keep
it
the end
was
the same. You had to keep those things sharpened, and not that you shouldn't sharpen your blades all the time, but I mean, you had to really keep those things honed to keep them deadly. Whereas the iron will, I'm telling you, I could strop them and make them even sharper. But the ones that I've hunted with all year, I could pull that baby out, and I'm telling you, you could slice a steak with that thing. I mean, they're sharp. They eat. So,
yeah,
I mean, it all comes down to, and I love having a good sharp broadhead, and then so that's why the beast is great because those things are sharp. Uh, but I can't say field testing it what it is. but we know iron will works. I've put it all the way through a deer, pretty much all the way from the back, um, past, you know, hit the diaphragm, hit the liver, hit the diaphragm, in a lung, in another lung, out the front. Deer went 50 yards, 40 yards, but no blood, but passed all the way through the animal. So we know it works. Um, but it's just a matter of just doing some testing, honing things in, making sure, like you said, hey, what flies good in my rig? What flies good with this arrow? And
Yeah, and I mean,
but some of that's just about tuning. So it's just like you choose what you
right.
want and then you make it fly. But there's a lot of people like Brian Call does not he is not a fan of iron wheel. Um, and I listen to him sometimes, and I'm like, man, I don't understand. Those things fly great.
Yeah. I mean, to each his own. I mean, whatever. I don't know. Uh, like you said, if it doesn't fly out of your rig, or some people may not like it just because it's mainstream and they're charging $100 for 3 heads and they think it's overpriced. However, what I was gonna say, kind of when we pause in, but it's a good segue into that. But so in my job, I do a lot of data analysis, wine engineering technician. So an engineering technician, numbers are really key. Like, what do the numbers say? So testimonials are good, but like you were saying, do your research. You can look at these numbers and just like we're talking about these different steels, the A2 tool steel or the Oscuts, they're made of a high carbon steel, so
Yeah,
a blend. Um, but you know, look at these numbers, if you will. Maybe they're not like true numerical 1, 2, 3, 4 type numbers, but what do the facts say? What do the facts, and you do your research, you put the facts together, and then your testimonials, and then your own experience. And I think that that's the best way to do it, um, instead of trying to rely on what Jimmy Joe says down at the bow shop. You just hear him over talking, or your buddies shooting XYZ, and you know basically you do your research, and based off of what you shoot and how you shoot it, um, kind of make your decision, obviously off of your experience, but you can put in those facts and other testimonials, and at least get you pointed in a direction to where you can get that your own personal experience to determine which broad you're going to shoot. Hopefully that makes sense. I felt like I might have rambled a little bit, but
you're good. Trust me, I've rambled enough for all of us tonight. So but dude, I got ADD brain sometimes. Like I get on one string, and then that spiders off to another string, and then that spiders off to another string, and then I'm like, well, let me circle back to my original thought. And I haven't forgot it yet. Let's finish it. But and then that's just
right.
how my brain works, man. I can't help it. But especially when you're passionate about something, it's easy just to get talking. And even with us talking on this podcast, I was like, man, are we going to talk too much? Are we going to have enough to talk about? Man, we haven't even dropped.
We haven't touched the surface. You got to come back. You got to come back and watch our other episodes as we move forward in this. I guess you can call it an endeavor, but this endeavor that we've spoken and kind of, I guess, dreamed about um, for quite some time. But come along with us. We'll talk more about hunting, like you said, hunting, faith, um, fitness, whatever. We're gonna kind of shoot the bull on these podcasts. Hopefully they're informative, they're entertaining. But we would love to have you come back and um, come along with us as we kind of talk about our experiences and different gear and things of those natures. So
The ups, the downs, and hopefully along the way motivate you to do hard things. I mean, you know what? Sometimes you think we're coming down to the end here, so I'll say this and we'll wrap it up. Doing hard stuff makes other hard things easier. Um, and I think that's why I love what we do, man. And so
well,
we're
and if
just a bunch of washed up athletes still trying to be good at something. And so
yeah.
why not excel? You know, why not? And you can excel at anything you put your mind and your soul and your heart and your efforts into, us honestly. But it matters when you're passionate about it. And when you get bit by that bug, baby, there's no coming back. There's no coming
Right, exactly.
back. But yeah, like Cam said, let's stay tuned. Uh, and in the SABOL fashion, and we got to say bye 15 times. So basically, we've done this already twice, but we're gonna say it again. You know, check. We got stories. We got stories about mountain lions. We got stories about moose. We got stories about elk and deer. I mean, I'm telling you, you're in for something.
Fox that you don't think is a fox and potentially a wolf or a mountain lion. I don't know, but
But
we can get into that one later too. But the main thing is just like the name of the podcast. When you wake up every morning, whatever you're doing, best of your ability, the best that you know how, and continue to get better. And just like the podcast says, keep pressing play.
press and play,
Um,
baby.
yeah, it might not be the best right now, but keep pressing play, and you'll get out of that valley, if you will. And sooner or later, that mountaintop is gonna come, and you're gonna be able to enjoy that mountaintop.
Until the next
If you
valley,
just
and then you're gonna go back up.
That's why you got to keep pressing play, though, right?
Right. But we better wrap this up.